Tom, Grand Rising. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm really thrilled to be here. I've loved the content you pushed out that you've been pushing out on social. I don't. I'm only on Twitter. I'm not really on all the socials, so only on X rather. And
Yeah.
like everything that you publish is always incredibly aligned with how I'm thinking, perceiving, or feeling the world. So super cool to hang out with you and be able to chat a little bit.
I'm grateful for that. Yeah, X or Twitter is really where I do most content. I'm not great at multitasking, other than if we do a conversation like this, and I'll put it out to the other social media platforms. But I don't do any posting over there. I kind of just stick to what I stick to. But I
How do you maintain the schedule, by the way? Because like you publish some incredible content and comment and all the things, and I've been radio silent like for the last like 8 months in this business build that I'm in right now, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to be on social anymore. Spiritual guys gone quiet for a little bit.
That's right. Well, you're preparing. You're preparing for whatever's next, and I'd love to hear about that. Yeah, I don't. So I'd gone through a layoff at a company I worked at in February, and so which was really great for me. Like I made peace with the place I worked at for 10 years during the 15-minute conversation that it was. Like I was good. And it's helpful when you have a severance package that there's a piece of time that you're just going to have. And I'd never had it before, so I'm like, I'm going to take 4 months and let this kind of flow where it goes to. Um, had just decided separately from that to stop drinking alcohol, which was a good friend of mine for a long time, and that
Hmm.
friendship just departed. And there were some things I was doing, here on X, and then books I was reading, and like it almost felt I was busy, not in a bad way, but I just didn't miss a beat going right into those things. I dove pretty deep. You could ask my wife a little too deep at times. I've heard
too
some.
too deep on existential
Yeah.
questioning or spiritual experimentation. Like what do tell me what's too deep?
All of it. I did a lot of book reading to the wee hours of the morning. A lot of posting, things like a shamanic soul retrieval, which
Mhm.
just felt like I was called to do it. Took a couple like blend of spiritual and like a not a business course, but talked with a person who kind of helped me understand energy levels in the working world and sort of cord cuttings, things like that. So like you know there were probably things I could have done to be more, but like I didn't just dip in. Like I dove in, and I had thought for a period of time before all this that maybe I'll post content in a way that is good enough, if you will. That maybe at some point someone from a podcast would invite me on, not for any like grandiose thing, other than I felt like I wanted to help people. I just wanted to help, and it wasn't too long after that I decided, why don't I just do my own? And I had a friend of mine, George, who was willing to do that with me, and so I invited myself. I guess I'll put it that way. So that was how that kind of all started. Um, so that was 4 months, and there was, it was really beautiful. It was a lot of change, and certainly for people around me, my wife included. And then I returned to the working world in June, which I knew that I was. And so you mentioned about schedule. Like I had a pretty, I was doing probably four of these a week, which was maybe a little much, and posting all the time. Now I try to do it whenever I have the time to, not to impact too much my day to day and family life and what's going on for work. So I don't know that I have a semblance of it, although I try to do one of these conversations now about once a week.
That's
Um,
awesome.
when I went to work in June, I knew I needed to kind of just immerse myself, and I was like, okay, I need to. Everyone at work knows I do a podcast. That was in the interview, so and there's no conflict of interest. What I do there is totally different, but I wanted to give it a little bit of time, and then someone from X had reached out to me who I'd asked months ago, hey, do you want to, or she finally had gotten around to wanting to do a conversation with me. She wasn't quite ready before. And so when she reached out, I was like, this is a sign that I need to start doing this a little bit more. So that's the semblance of a schedule I have right now. I kind of take it one day at a time, my friend.
That's amazing. Do you have like do you take notes, like if you have like an idea during the day, just like fire it into a notes app or something like that, and then come back and do the posting when it's not going to disrupt like people? Like how do you hold the thoughts?
I don't take notes, although that would probably be a good idea. Um, so some of those I lean on, like posts that I had made months back, either by a book or something else. I've gotten super into Alan Watts lately.
Hmm.
Um, and so if ever I have a moment or something like that, I'll listen to one of his speeches or lectures, or even some of the AI things. Like you can tell it's AI, but it's still his voice, and like I
Yeah.
can listen to discern that it's still the general message. So um, I'll listen to those things, and I've noticed that it just kind of takes hold in a good way, kind of within you. So then um, my posts kind of come from that, I guess. I really appreciate that you want to sort of turn the tables and ask me questions, because this really helps me.
Well, it helps. Well, it helps me too, because like I admire the way that you are able to. We were talking about like, before we hit record, like both kind of like in the world, in the 3D world, and yet and
Yeah,
coming from a spiritual place, and I really admire your ability to be consistent. Because I'm not. I'm over here or I'm over there, and
right.
it doesn't seem to. It hasn't been something that I've found yet. So yeah, it's 100% for my own curiosity. And I'm like, how does he do it, and how do I do it like later on? So
Yeah, I will say that doing these podcasts are it forces me in a loving way to downshift from like 3D land.
yeah.
I will say I've had I've had conversations with coworkers about soul agreements of all things, and that was not on my radar to think that would happen. But I am being authentically me while still balancing. Like I'm in a sales job, so I need to do those things too. So yeah, I think I've been fortunate with kind of retaining what I want to say. And I really don't know it until kind of that moment. I'll do some scrolling and I'll find some things. I've kind of gone back and forth on it. So, yeah, I mean, that you're reminding me of how fortunate and grateful I feel about it. I guess a question to your question. So, you had, for a period of time, Tom, you were in, 3D working world. Do you mind saying what the industry is?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it,
absolutely. So I in '99, I guess December of '98. So holy crap, that's 27 years coming up. I've got yeah, in the mortgage industry, right? So
okay.
so in the I had worked for companies, had my own companies, lost it, and then started a new one, and
Okay.
then left that one. It's just I've seen the breadth, and I've been all over the mortgage industry for a considerable period of time.
Okay.
Um, and in 20, 20, we'll do the short version, I guess, and then probably circle back onto some longer points. But like in 2017, for lack of the short version is my mind went quiet
Yeah.
through a variety of reasons, predominantly self inquiry and internal forgiveness work. I'm a muscle tester. Applied kinesiology is the
Okay.
modality. If you're familiar with Hawkins, David Hawkins, Power versus Force, all that work.
I
Yeah.
am
So
to a certain degree. Could
yeah,
you could you maybe for the audience just and for my benefit kind of explain a little bit,
of
or we can
course,
come
yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah. So applied kinesiology is really nothing more than the body's response to stimulus. It's you're either strengthened by something or you're weakened by something. And allergists or holistic medicine practitioners have been using applied kinesiology for a long time. So, for example, they would have someone hold wheatgrass in their arm. I'll try to do this so it's not weird. So hold wheatgrass in their arm, and somebody would apply pressure, and if the person was allergic to wheatgrass, then their arm goes down, it's not fortified. If they're holding something
Huh.
that is either fortifying, let's say it's an orange or whatever, and no one's allergic to an orange, then they apply pressure and the arm can maintain its fortitude. So the body breaks down or degrades when exposed to degrading stimulus. So it had been going on for years in the holistic world in the 60s, I think is when it kind of came out. Hawkins was a
Yes.
clinical psychologist, looked at it and said, well, this is fascinating. I
Yeah.
wonder, and he was going through his own spiritual kind of awakening at the time. He was like, I wonder if it works on other stuff. And the very long story short is he developed the ability to test thoughts and ideas, and found that thoughts and ideas, and even double blind, it's like, hey, there's a picture of Adolf Hitler in an envelope, like on the other side of the room, focus on the contents of the envelope,
Right.
and then test, and then it would be weakening, or picture of Christ in another envelope, focus on the contents of the envelope, and that would be strengthening. So he found that there was a non-locality
Right.
to the phenomenon, and that thoughts and ideas tested strong and weak as well. So that was his stuff, and he had an incredible practice. My school was kind of like an iteration of his work for about 15 years prior to me coming on. The problem that Hawkins and Hawkins devotees had was that they could never really replicate what he was what he was able to do very
Right.
clearly. The reason behind that my school had found was it was karma. As soon as you're allergist, for whatever reason, I don't understand it, but for whatever reason, in the physical domain, practitioners in the physical domain are able to get very consistent, predictable, duplicatable results over and over and over and over again. It's really great. It's really interesting. As soon as you apply it to spiritual, you're not just working yourself, you're working
Right.
the collective unconscious, and you're
Yep.
working every iteration of you that's been. So if
That's right.
if hypothetically speaking, you've lived thousands of human lifetimes,
Yep.
it's every version of you that's engaging with that active muscle testing. And so you actually have to go through your own stuff in order to
That's
in
right.
order for it to be reliable. And so that was my school. It was 15 years of iteration on that, and I've been a participant and in the consciousness research side of it. So that's a long preamble. I discerned a lot of old information in myself, and
Yeah.
I forgave and let it go. The more that I did it, the quieter my mind got, and then
Cleaner
it
you
just
got. Yeah.
shut off in 2017. And so then I was really at that point in time. It was really interesting. I also at that point became aware of the stuff that other people were experiencing. Initially, it was very confusing. Like it was like I called. I remember the first time it happened to me. I was sitting in front of a real estate office, and I could not get myself. I'm like, why do I feel? I feel anxious. I feel antsy. What's going on? Like not all as well. Not what I was used to feeling at all.
Right.
And I text my mentor, and I'm like, hey, like, will you tune into me? Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I am not able to, like, there's something funky going on here. And he's like, hey, test fine to me. When I say test, it means like muscle test. Like I'll test on my fingers,
Yeah. Um, I took a leadership energy kind
yeah,
of course. I don't know if you know that, but she also would do muscle testing for me. And so it was a blend of that and cord cutting and other things for me to kind of work through. So like she kind of threw the kitchen sink at me, which I was grateful for. We sort of did all three. And so she would muscle test she'd ask the question, and then I think she would like hold her hand up, and
yeah.
if it would test strong or positive, and she would trust whatever source was giving her. So similar to that, that's what you.
Yeah. So how I learned to do it was I would um, let's say the most binary. First of all, the body needs to be in a position to test, right? So I'll give you the pineal gland. If it tests strong, okay. So I'll test it like this. So O ring here, and this is how I learned to test, and in a very binary love. Okay, love is strengthening. Now I can say love, and I can hold the energy of love, and I will rip this finger out of socket before this breaks. Like love, love. There's nothing that I can do that will cut that. same thing. Hate does not matter how hard I'm holding this. If I've
Right.
got if I'm doing hate, then it degrades, right? So that's the binary. Now
Okay.
I'll test like with my fingers as well. But to make sure the body's in a position to test, you would go pineal. If that's strong, that's fine. That means intuitive, energetic information coming in. The front way. Opposite pineal. This is old Hawkins. Opposite pineal. Is weak. Great. Ego one, which is my consciousness seated in the front of my
Hmm.
of my brain, or is it in the brain stem? So ego one going strong means my consciousness is seated up in the logic and reason
Okay.
zone. Top of head meridians, and then last one we would say is system sleep. My system sleep is strong, which means system is not processing. Okay, and you might think of it like this: if somebody who's in grief, someone who's grieving is a bodily process, right? There's a bodily
Yeah.
process of grief. The body's not in a position to test, so system sleep is like what works. But yeah, and then basic love and hate, and so I can inquire about all kinds of stuff. Generally, it's only beneficial to inquire about things that raise consciousness or help discern blocks to raise to
Right.
raise consciousness. People will try to, it's like, I'm going to predict me some lottery numbers, and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as you move it into that realm, then you're in survival. Once you're in
Right.
survival, all is not well, and the whole thing just freaking
You're
falls apart. But it's
you're
amazing.
not treating your sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
You're
you're good.
not treating your life as already abundant. You are seeking, and it's
Exactly.
nothing with it.
You're looking for the antidote.
Right.
So so when my teacher had said, he said, no, you test fine to me. And I'm like, well, I'm experiencing this. This is back when I'm in the car in the parking lot. He's like, oh, well, did you test if that's you? I'm like, the hell does that mean? Did I test that was me? And what I'm experiencing is me weak. I'm like, okay, great. What does that mean? He's like, well, where are you? And I'm like, I'm getting ready to go talk to a room full of real estate agents. He's
Right.
like, oh, well, just confirm that you're already connected to them and you're experiencing what they're experiencing.
Yep.
I was like, that's okay. Like, I grew up in private Catholic schools in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
Like, this type of thing was not on the menu for
No.
for me. Now, so it took me about 2 years to learn how to manage my sensitivity. The fact that I was just
Yeah.
constantly experiencing other people's stuff, and here's something that's vital for anybody that's interested in this kind of work to understand. It is only ever, and this is your empaths. If there's an empath listening to this, if there anybody who has like this idea of because I feel what I feel, that I'm almost victimized by my environment. It is only ever you.
Yeah.
You are only ever experiencing yourself.
That's right.
Somebody else may be sounding the note. It is your relationship to the information which is causing the disruption. So the way that I used to describe this for people, Adam, was I would be like, and when I say describe this for people, years later, because I was very closeted, I couldn't tell anybody any of this stuff. This is like a secret that I had, and get to the consequence of that secret in a minute.
Yeah.
But it was like I was walking around with 10,000 tuning forks sticking out of me in every direction. And
Yeah.
then whatever you were experiencing, that was disruptive in your life was like, I got one of those too. And
That's
so,
right.
so the thing to do was, it became a 2-year process of going, oh, that's what that is. Okay, where is it? Where is it in me? Okay, I can feel that. Okay, it's me here now. It's old information, whatever, and I would forgive that and just pop a tuning fork out. And that was my process to manage my sensitivity, was to actually go forgive the information that I was resisting in somebody else, because it was only ever, like what was occurring in me that I
Yeah.
was resisting. So I think that there's a lot of people, especially within the spiritual realm, people get very, I have a gift and an ability, and all these other people are the reason why I still feel like a certain way, and it's never that at all. They feel victimized by their own sensitivity, because it can be very disorienting.
Yeah.
So 2 years to manage the sensitivity,
So from
and then
2017 to 2019.
yep, and
Yeah.
then I went and really stepped in it in about June of 2019, because I was like, maybe I can help someone.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy of mine who was experiencing like symptoms of stroke because he was going through a very traumatic and wrongful lawsuit. And I told him, I was like, hey man, this is still when I was extremely closeted. You and I could not have had this conversation
Right.
even 3 years ago. Wouldn't have been physically possible. My fifth chakra would have been like, let alone I wouldn't have been on here to say yes. I was like, I can't explain to you what I do. I have no idea. But if
Right.
you want to feel better, I might be able to help. And he's like, I will do anything. And we got together over a couple of Saturdays for about 4 hours at a stretch. And I tested and I discerned through my methodology and modality the different blocks, and I was able to hold them up, talk about what they were, and articulate it in a way that he could relate it to his life and his world, and see kind of like where it was, and forgive that information. And
Yep.
as he did it, as he forgave the information, he felt better and better and better and better, until eventually at the end of the process, it was like the whole thing happened to somebody else. It
Wow.
was, he was
Yeah, he
at
was a
peace.
different person. He went through a death, if you will. That was
100%.
yeah.
100%. And that's and a lot of that, a lot of the release work it literally is, like letting go of identity to a certain extent, because we become attached to this unconscious information that's filtering our experience of
Right.
reality, whatever that is.
Yep.
So yeah, the problem with doing that was it immediately created frontman, mortgage guy, trauma release healer boy over here.
Right.
And I was essentially living two different lives for about 2.5 years, and still very closeted with my spirituality. For
Right.
whatever reason, the
Just growing
karmic.
by word of mouth or organically, but people who know people like coming to you. That's what you
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, and more like really just kind of like tapping people on the shoulder, like myself, you know what I mean, and letting and like, hey, and doing like that. And so and in that zone, in this, and yeah, I don't know if you experienced this in your 4 months, but in that zone, when you're tapping into the all of you, like everything, like it feels so good, and it feels like the most aligned version of like what you are, and there's an immediate and reflexive make wrong of everything that isn't that.
Boy, do I, yeah, boy, I have an alignment, and I'm not going to say it yet, but we'll get to it. So keep
Yeah.
going, my friend.
So what I essentially did was, I had this entire business and career that I'd built that was basically built out of survival, and being unconscious, and that's fine. But
Right.
then I dialed in this piece of me, and it's like I'm a top producing mortgage guy, but I'm really a spiritual healer, and this is what feeds my soul, and it's what I should be doing, and so, and for whatever reason, the karmic information that I was born into this world with, a considerable amount of information about like staying quiet, stay hidden, don't tell people who you are, don't tell, like
That's
I
correct.
didn't talk about this to anybody. And so it was literally like feeling like I was living two different lives. My wife thought I was insane for, for a long time, until eventually I helped her, through something, and did a little bit of work. This, you're, I don't know how your experience, I'm actually curious how your experience with your wife was,
Oh yeah,
as you
it's
went through your
it's it's
transformation.
eerily similar, my friend.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's my wife's a saint, because and I brought all the weird, and she's great. I mean, she's a huge supporter, now. But like in my fear, and in my scared to admit to myself who and what I was, or even
Yeah.
have conversations with her, or be able to explain to it. I must have just been like just a weirdo, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and yeah, so I burned out hard. And in my industry is very, very intense. It's a lot of, most people just constantly burn out and then re-enroll themselves, and constantly burn out and then re-enroll themselves.
Yeah.
I burned out hard, and I took a sabbatical year in 2022 for
Okay.
for most of the year, and I came back, I was finally ready just to kind of like I'd shed the rest of whatever was there that was blocking me to be able to just admit to myself and admit to everybody else. I came back and I dissolved one old life and one old career, and then I opened a new company. Had a opened up a it was it came out in the open on the spiritual release work and the trauma release work kind of stuff, and
How
kind of
was
like
that by kind of taking it mainstream? Did you, there's reasons I'm sure that you did it. Maybe you needed to prepare for yourself as to what that meant, ego, identity, whatever it is. But did you experience the fallout that you anticipated from others, or was it more open?
none, like not, I mean, it was all in my head. My when I came back, initially, before I burned everything down, yeah, I told my team, I was like, I'm coming back, but you guys have to know, it's like there's this part of me that I've never really talked about, and this is like what I've got. And to a human being, everybody was like, "Yeah, dude, like we've always known you're weird. You're fine." You know what I mean? So turns out I wasn't fooling anyone.
Did they slow clap for you? Be like, we were wondering when you were gonna get it. Like we
a,
just
a little bit like that, and it was, it turns out like your beingness is telling everybody who you are long before you do. So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
there wasn't anything that they didn't already know. I was always the guy that was that in the conversations I would ask the next question and the question underneath that, and then they would have like a release and feel better and feel different. So it was no difference. However, 2022 was a hard year in my industry, and I had to choose myself a few different times over that period of time to get what I needed to get out of the and create the space.
yeah,
So when I told them I was going to open my own company in the mortgage space, um, the two people, my two mentees, they were like, "We don't want to go be a startup." And they went somewhere else. And when that happened, I dissolved the rest of everything, because when I
yeah.
came back, I was like, I just knew like there's no part of me, like creator and a builder and an entrepreneur and a healer and a teacher, all of those things, yes. But like being obligated as a top producer to provide for other people, that ship had sailed. And so
Right.
when the two people that I was training, that had the ability, had the same abilities that I did to produce, when they left, I torched everything, which was an exquisitely painful process, but ultimately one that was really 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 important. It allowed me to hit a bottom, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it was very weirdly, once I got myself out and back like whole again in June July of 23,
Hmm.
we my one of my mentees called, within a month, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to do something?" Right, and then that's kind of become the thing that we're involved in now. So, but yeah,
On the
it's been a winding road.
mortgage side, you mean one of your so one of the mentees that didn't
On the
want to do a startup and went somewhere else, then kind of came back in her own time to you. Is that what you mean?
Exactly,
I
yeah.
got
So she came back, and and we'll see. There's another one that may jump back in here soon, and um, the trauma release work that I did when I came back in 23, I experimented a lot with just being open, and back to your earlier, word of mouth coming in. I mean, just all kinds
right.
of stuff. And I learned that I can make a living, for on it, and it would work out. But I found the circumstances of my life don't yet support what that would look like in the short term. And what I mean by that is, like, I have a 17-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter, about to be 15 and 8, or yes, yeah, 16. Geez, oh Pete, she's driving next month or 2 months from now. A 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, with all the club volleyball and all
Right.
of the private school. and all of the, right. And
Right.
so like my world and my karma, that it exists in this realm. And so it's like if I you know if I don't choose to go blow that up.
Yeah, you don't want to detonate the entire thing. There's a balance you're trying to achieve. Yeah, and
Right.
my kids, well, one's close to those age, but yeah, I understand that balance where you want to have a maintaining a semblance of quality of life for your family,
Yeah.
and then also want to be you, and that's a challenging one.
Yeah.
Um,
Aging parents too, right? I mean, like right now,
yeah.
at my age, I'm looking and I'm like, okay, like people, we're still healthy right now, but like there's that component as well. So,
What a
um,
perfect setup for karma, right? You've put, we've all put all these blocks just in place to make sure we just stay right here, sort of vibrating, but not, yeah.
super fascinating. And, the one thing, it's funny, this book was on my radar for so long, but I finally read it. I finally read it this summer. And it was, and I love that it happened because I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. It was uh, Singer, not Untethered Soul. What's the come on? Oh my
Non-tethered.
god! So Michael Singer, who wrote the Untethered Soul, also
Okay.
wrote an incredible biography of his, which is it'll pop back in, but it's the crux of it is surrendering to life's circumstances, right? The entire point of the book, and it was his. Oh, it's called thank you. It's called the Surrender Experiment. It's an
Okay.
incredible book, and it is him documenting from the time that he was in his early 20s. He took on this experiment of just surrendering to whatever life was putting in front of him, and then the journey that made. Meanwhile, he's this Jewish Buddhist, like universal consciousness, kind of guy that like starts and founds this temple out in Gainesville, Georgia, constantly surrendering, going to the heights of high, the CEO of a publicly traded company that gets acquired, and like the whole thing, all the while being this guy, this rooted individual underneath.
Can I
All
can
the,
I can I pause you for a second?
yeah.
I didn't say surrender, but I was thinking in my mind silver cord, connection to silver cord.
Oh
Did you
yeah.
hear that? Did you hear me say something without me saying it? Surrender.
Uh, no, but in
Okay.
the context of just the conversation, as the conversation was going, you had said something, and then
Okay.
it popped into my head,
Okay.
and so I just it's like a thank you, as a thank you of the back and
Sure.
forth. So, but like that's kind of this, and it's, I mean, it's I guess what Indian mystics or teachers would call karma yoga, which is really just like surrendering to life as it presents it. But
Yeah.
that's the thing. And I had private clients. I had trauma release clients, that I was running through 2023 all the way up until January of 24.
Hmm.
And I was doing both of these things, the mortgage space and the spiritual teaching and healing space. And I was like something like mortgage wants to happen. Like there's something over here that is trying to happen and trying to express. And I'm like, if I just take my ego out of the equation, and the fact that I should be a healer, if I just back off for a minute, and just look at what life is like presenting and trying to do,
Right.
it just seemed like the practical thing to do, especially when I look at my kids, and especially when I consider like the time horizon, that I'm at this point in life. And I'm like, let's go ahead and shut that down, for the time being, and let's just go and surrender to what's going on here, because
Right.
builder, entrepreneur, like that, that's me. And I'm like, cool, I don't need Adam, if we're doing a loan together, like clearing your karma is not a prerequisite. We can just pull your credit
No.
too. Like that's fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want a loan, or do you
That's right.
want everlasting peace as a side of your loan? I mean, it's like it's not really.
Here's this pinwheel over here. Be like, just give it a spin. Dude, whatever,
Yeah,
whichever one
exactly.
you want. Who knows?
So since January of this year, this is about when I kind of went offline on the socials. Like I've been really just
January of this year, you said?
yeah,
January.
January of this
Okay.
year. I've just really been building this business and this mortgage business, and just seeing what happens, and kind of like what what life is presenting, while still being whole as far as who I am, what my perspectives are, what I believe. I don't need to share them, but like I'm
Right.
totally open to share them. And it's the first time in my life ever that I've just been whole in whatever the space. Let me rephrase that. It's the first time in my life ever that I've experienced myself
Yeah.
as whole, in whatever it is that I'm doing. Doesn't mean it's easy. Like we were talking about. Like we're recording this on a Saturday because you were a hero, and I was like, dude, the amount of time it's going to take me to downshift to be able to put myself in a place to be whole and present in our conversation, like
Right.
with where my frenetic brain is, like during the week is, and so we're doing it on a Saturday because you were
Yeah.
incredibly gracious with that. And
Well, I'll give
yeah,
you a great example of that too. Like, my wife might hear this and be like, "Why would you have to mention that?" So, we woke up a little bit later, which is fine. She's got her morning routine, which is coffee and whatever her is on her mind. And I have practiced this better. Today was not my best. Where I like to say this, I just like to say 93%. Even my kids know now that I'm trying to be 93% more present and silent, where I'm not using too many words. And I was not my best self this morning. I had a few agenda items that like I wanted to walk through, then trying to mentally prepare for this, and like so I take full accountability for that and responsibility. And so walking into this, like I had to downshift a little bit rather quickly, and this is just free flowing, which is great. So I hear what you're saying, especially in your industry. I can only imagine. So, yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
we are a reactive industry. Like our industry it's completely reactive.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like in any victim way. It's a requirement of the job. We have to
Right.
react to our agent partners. We have to react to what the client, to like like what the client's needs are. Those needs are usually occurring like off hours and at different times. And then we've
Yeah.
got to react to the processing and the underwriting of a situation. Yeah, it's a very reactionary industry. Um, I would love to know. So you were super kind of like spiritual prior to you diving all in, or were you just kind of like curious, toe in the water, then you dove all in? Like what was your process, and what was your process with your wife?
Yeah, I have been trying to think of how to skin this within the time that we have. All right, so and this is great. I'm very grateful that you asked this, because each time it kind of comes up. It doesn't come up as often. Like part of this is conversation. The name of this is conversations and higher vibrations, and I wanted it to not be me talking about me. That felt awkward. But I really enjoy when the question comes up. So I'm going to try to summarize. Um, Certainly back from childhood, and I won't stay there long, but I have felt that I was placed here for a particular reason. I felt like an outsider. But my childhood was very, very good. If anything really occurred, I probably brought it on myself. I'm 44, so in my early 30s, I had gone through forgiveness of people that don't even know it, some family members and some otherwise. And so like there was I'm setting the stage to say there's pieces of spirituality always there. Um, I happen to be a subsistence hunter, so I've gone deer hunting since I was 12. I embrace my redneck roots and go back to Pennsylvania and do that, but I live in North Carolina. And pretty early on, I think for me to reconcile taking that life, I would always place my hand on that deer right afterwards, right after it occurred, almost, Native American style, and just thank it. And my dad to this day still doesn't know I do that, but he wouldn't be surprised to be heard. Someday maybe I'll tell him. I don't know. So there's elements that have happened. Fast forward to a little, more recent. Um, I was asleep and doing the 3D stuff that you do for work and whatever those types of things, but portions started to cleave off a little bit. And about 10 years back, I went through a rather challenging divorce, but that yielded two wonderful children whom I can't imagine life without. And then fast forward more closely, my now wife I met 4 years ago, and then we got married 2 years ago. So like all of these things, and I will say from that 10 years ago forward, it felt like bonus time, Tom. I had taken myself to depths of darkness, which some other time we can get into, but like I pulled myself pretty low, maybe not low for everyone, but it was a low point for me. And every moment afterwards, I felt grateful for and just happy. I was the happiest I'd ever been. I'd sometimes describe that to my now wife. I'm like, I'm the happiest I've ever been. She's like, what does that even, you haven't had happiness? I'm like, I have, but it just feels like I'm on bonus time. It feels like maybe I wasn't supposed to be here any longer in a happiness. I don't know if that makes sense. So, um, I was probably closeted at that point when I met her. Like I'd listened to lots of podcasts. A lot of them were politics and other things that were way on the other side of anything, like, pretty tight tinfoil hat type stuff. But I wasn't listening to it so much to just say, I believe every thing of it. I think it was helping me to just encourage me to think. And I liked that I could hear things that I didn't necessarily believe or found outlandish. I think I was learning to discern and what I decided to listen to. And I was just sort of flowing in this sort of, I was in my river headed to the ocean, and I was in some eddies, but I felt really good where I was at, if the metaphor rings
Yeah.
true. So, then in 2024, March thereabouts, so fairly recent, I decided that I wanted to, I felt called to go on to start helping. I didn't know what that really felt like, and it led me to X, and it was a lot of politics stuff that I started like posting on and things, and I never thought too much about like followers or views, but like I really noticed some of the things that got a lot of views weren't the things that I really found fulfilling, and I was like, I made some post about some political figure, and it got like hundreds of thousands of views, and I'm like, that, like, it felt good for about a moment, but I could tell I was ready enough to realize that that wasn't going to make me fall back asleep, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I jumped the shark, to quote Happy Days, I guess. And so it started to feel so hollow doing those things. I started getting more and more spiritual and leaning in and all those things in through like the fall. And in May of last year, I was enjoying alcohol a lot. I was functional. I held a great job. It was comfortable. But two bottles of wine a night was not a strange thing for me. And it was, especially with COVID, and that's no excuse. I take accountability. Like I was just real leaned in on it. Like it was just normal. And I had this notion from someone. I didn't hear the voice, but the voice spoke to me that said, alcohol's not going to be here for much longer. Like it's a passenger for now, but it's going to leave. And I did the best thing I could think of, Tom. I did not tell my wife, because we'd already kind of gone through whether she might want to stop or I might want to stop. She didn't drink nearly as much as I did. And so I think it was kind of pardon my French, a shit test from
Mm-hmm.
God to say, I want to see how ready you seem like you are, because you seem like you're getting it. So up through the fall of last year, so about a year ago, I really started to get more into spirituality and books. I started to say yes to some books. I'd said no to some because I was trying to balance between work and the amount of posting I was now doing and still maintaining a job. I was wanting to balance all that. And then I stopped drinking alcohol a couple of weeks after my wife stopped. And it was at that point, and maybe it's a male female thing, maybe it's just my personality thing, but like once it happened, it was already done. Like it had already just. I took my last business trip and that job, and it just ended. And so I don't count days or anything like that. It
Yeah.
just stopped. And then 2 weeks later, I got laid off. And interestingly, like a day, maybe 2 days before I got laid off, I had started getting into like Greg Braden's work. And
Greg
um,
Brady, tell me about him real fast.
so, gosh, I'm trying to think how I should describe it. Written many books. He is a systems engineer, and he talks a lot, at least more recently, about our humanness and how we are incredibly powerful beings. Talks a lot about your heart centered. Works a lot with like the Heart Math Institute, or at least has in the past, and how us giving away our humanity to AI or to blended hybrid things like that. Like there's a lot within us that we really would do ourselves a disservice if we didn't embrace. So um, a lot of it kind of baked in science because he is a systems thinker, and so a lot of his content I just was drawn to. I'm not sure why. It just was, and I was shared. It was shared with me by a good friend of mine, the same who had done the leadership energy or energy leadership. Can't remember which. So, but he just happened to say, if you buy my new book, you can join a free seminar. And I was like, okay, great. One thing happened before that. Sorry, a week prior to that. So this is all happening like end of January and February, not long ago, right? Not even a year ago. Um, I happened to go on X just randomly, and 5 minutes before that, a person who I knew somewhat from online said, "I'm giving away healing sessions," which I'd never really heard before. I'm like, okay. And the first 9 or 10 people to reply to this will get it. Well, I was the first one. I saw it within a couple minutes that she posted. And I did not think of myself. I thought of a friend of mine who I know I felt like was under some spiritual attacks. And I said, I want this to be her. Can you do that for her? And this person said, yes, but you're getting one too. And I'm like, no, it was a very much like,
No, I'm good.
yeah, I was like, no, I appreciate that, but I don't need that. But she kind of kept on, and then after a while, I'm like, okay, am I just holding on to virtue for virtue itself that I don't want to say yes? Just say yes. Just say yes. So so the night my wife went out, because it's still weird, it's still weirdo land, right? Of getting a healing session. What does that even mean? She knew I was doing it, but so I just laid down in my bed, and all she said was just try and be just clear your mind and just let whatever happen happen. And I was listening to Greg Braden about being open hearted and very much about heart centered, which the moment I feel like I started to go from trying to think and see through here, my third eye, which I'm pretty rudimentary in my in my understanding, or at least was, I stayed heart centered and just open to whatever will occur. Well, during that 30 minutes, she called me afterwards and she's like, it didn't work. I didn't see too much. I need to give you a do-over. I'm like, well, on my side, it was glorious. I had, I said, I'm pretty sure I saw your face in like a blue kind of smoky, whatever. I'm pretty sure it was your face because I know what she looks like, the person giving the healing session. I said, and other things had like come in and out. And I mean, my eyes were closed, but like I saw these things, and it wasn't like, how you usually probably get text messages or like phone calls or whatever else. And certainly through the hours of like 7 and 8 p.m., nothing happened. Like everything was silent. Like I heard things outside, that were normal. But so that was the first time. And then I had that Greg Braden lecture that I joined, and there were 2 to 3 minute meditations, and I had more visions. And this time the color had changed to purple. It wasn't blue anymore, which now I interpret that person that gave me the healing session, maybe she sees in blue, or I was tapped in, if you will, to what that blue was. So now I had that experience within a week of these three: stopped drinking alcohol, and then I got laid off. And so that happened all in a span of whatever. So my wife's already hearing like pieces of this and starting to grapple with that, because you mentioned about how to work with your wife, and she was trying to keep up, trying to be like, has my husband changed? Like we're recently married. Like what is going on? So so I decided that I wanted to really take at least 4 months of not working. I was interviewing and doing things like that. It wasn't like I wasn't going to rejoin the workforce. I just wasn't in a hurry. So then the books that kind of were sitting on the shelf, I read a lot of those. And then probably a couple weeks after that, my stepson had gotten sick. He was pretty sick with like flu-like symptoms or whatever. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, I wonder if I should offer a healing session, because in that first healing session I got, she's like, you're a healer now. She just gave like a couple small little instructions. And I'm like, okay. And I know I'm really long-winded in this. I'm going to try to wrap it up.
No, you're good.
So it went from me not offering it to my stepson to then my son got sick that was a similar thing. And I thought, I said, I'm just going to, are you good with me just coming in here? And I think I called it a meditation. I didn't want to call it that. Um, I said, let's just take 9 minutes. I'll lay on the floor. I'm going to play some music, which for you and I is like Hertz music, like it's either, 528 or something like that. I don't know what it was. And we did that probably 2 or 3 times, and he got better. Did he get better because I was there? Maybe, maybe not. And it didn't really matter to me because it wasn't what I was doing. It was all from source, from our prime creator, from God. That's how I interpret it. That was the first one. And that led me to then my stepson had a surgery. And then, so I did that, and he seemed to heal better. Was it because I just wanted him to be better? And I would go through, I started developing mantras in my own internal, dialogue about it. Fast forward then, for several months while I launched this podcast, while I'm reading all these books, while I'm also still interviewing, which my wife's trying to grapple with all these things, like that was extremely hard on her, especially in the time when I wasn't working 3D. And I've stopped doing healing sessions now, but I did over 100 of them. And I was in a situation where I was like, maybe this is the thing. Like you mentioned, I'm a healer. Like, is that what I am? And I actually started to get, I'm going to call them downloads, that it was an opening for me, but I started saying no to healing sessions. There was someone who's gone through a lot of trauma. He had back injuries from a car crash and other things. And I gave him probably 50, and all of them, I might have bartered some things, but I didn't charge for money. That bothered me. That I wasn't quite sure about that either. And so I just never arrived at that. Although I understand now that, like, if you want to make a living at this, like, you're going to need to have some type of fee-based thing. I just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And
It's super common, especially like in the early going also, because all of our stuff with like gifts and spirituality and all the dogma with money. I mean, it's
yeah,
everybody does the same thing. Plus, but there's a practical thing of like you're experimenting with it. Am I ready? Am I not ready? Is this even something I want to do? So it makes sense.
right. So, and I can dig into any of these more, but I'll try and land this plane, and you can ask questions because I've talked a lot. So through all those 4 months, doing all those healing sessions, realizing that is something that's great, but there feels like I just felt compelled to stop doing that and allow myself to do something else. It felt like a death when I went back to work. It wasn't that I wasn't happy going back to work, but I felt like I lost that part of myself. Oh my gosh, these podcasts and all these other things. And pretty quickly I'd start having conversations with like people in 3D at work or whatever else. And fast forward to now in November, I have moved so much, unimaginably so, from that point in time. And it's not that part wasn't great, but I was still attached to like those 4 months as like being the holy grail. And it's not, it's right where you are. So I'm going to pause. I'll take a drink of water, but like, I've thrown a lot at you. I hope I've answered some of your questions. If anyone's viewing this, you're like, oh, you guys are all over the place, or at least I am. But that's kind of a fast forward of sort of how this has gone. So super weird, super hard on the people in your life. You try and share what you can. You want to help, but you also don't want to like throw them off the deep end with you if they're just not there or don't want to be. So.
Yeah, breaching expectations is really, really, it's hard. It's funny. So many parallels between wives. I think mine suffered longer than yours did. But like as far as when you start unbecoming what you were, it's jarring for the people around you. Like we used to be known as the wine people, right? So it's funny the
Right.
number of parallels. Like we were the wine people, all the trips out to Napa, everything. Like I love wine, and alcohol. My relationship to alcohol, like it was like it turned on me at a certain point. It didn't start. It started didn't serve a purpose anymore. At the end of 2019, January 2019 was the last time I'd really kind of like I went for it. Or sorry, New Year's Eve 2019, and something about like I was like I don't know what I woke up on New Year's Day 2020, and I was like I don't know what it is, just something. Like I need all of myself right now. Like there's
Right.
something's going on, and so I more or less stopped drinking, and we were out on a COVID walk. I don't know how you guys did your COVID, but like, we walked a lot. COVID for me was a blessing, and it was amazing. The amount of time I got to spend with my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody who's worked as hard and as long and as much as I have, that time was nothing but a gift and a blessing for me. I understand it was a lot for other people, and very much not. For me, it was a gift to spend with the family. But my wife and I would take these long walks over and over again. And on that walk, like one time, she just looked at me, she just broke down, she's crying. She's like, I just like if you can just wake up one day and decide, that you're done with wine. Like, how do I know that doesn't happen with me? At some point.
Right.
And it's such a weird thing to say, but it speaks to like when you breach people's expectations of who you are and what you were and what we were, together. I mean, it is unmooring, and for most people, it's very scary. The where she crossed, and this is earlier than that conversation, but where I stopped being weird enough. I had enough self confidence in what it was that I did. And she still thought I was insane. But there was a charity golf event that she had that she was sponsoring or not sponsoring, working for a friend,
Yeah.
and she was paired. My wife likes everybody; she's great with everybody, fantastic human being. But this one gal hated this one gal, irrationally so, right? So for me, in my world, in my paradigm, when you irrationally hate somebody, it's only ever karma. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you walk down the street, somebody's got a good face for punching. I promise you, it's karma. You know what I mean? You have no earthly reason to dislike somebody like that. It's
Right.
karma.
Right.
So
Right.
she finds out she's getting paired with this gal, and they've got to be in the golf cart for this entire event.
Of course
And
she
she
did.
is
Of course she did.
horrified. She is beside herself in our kitchen. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. And by the way, only because her best friend is about to find out that she hates this chick because she can't control herself. And then
Right.
that makes her look bad, and then she loses the benefit of like the best friend's feeling about her. It's just like, why does it matter? It only matters because she was scared to get exposed for what she really felt about this gal and look bad in
Right.
front of her friend.
Right.
But she's beside herself in the kitchen, and I was like, babe, like, what I do. Do you want help?
Yeah.
And she's like, fine, do me. And so and then I immediately go, because this is where I was in my journey. I'm like, oh, good, I get to teach my wife something. And so she stands up, like we're like next to our counter, and I'm like, okay, so this is what, and she's like, I don't care. And she's like, I don't want to know, just do the thing.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
like, noted. I am not my wife's teacher. Thank you very much. So I went through, I went through a process, a very rapid process for her. And, it was like it was like in the movie The Matrix, when they get plugged in the back of the head, there's like, like she had like that, kind of like kind of thing going on. And I just kept telling her, I was like, just keep saying, please forgive and release me over and over, as you're forgiven and released by me over and over while you're
Right.
thinking about her. And I'm just going to say a whole bunch of stuff that won't make any sense. And so I did that process with her, and she was like plugged into the Matrix, and she's like, what? She's like, I feel terrible. What's going on? I'm like, so stop for a second. We moved through a whole bunch of information. I'm like, how are you feeling? She's like, I'm okay. She's like, but God, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like there's something. Like, yeah, you and she, hypothetically speaking, have not liked each other for a very long time. We're cleaning up.
Right. You're purging. Yeah.
we're purging, we're rotor rootering, that part of the soul, right now we're cleaning the pipe, so to speak. So I went back in and kind of finished it, and I and at the end of it I was like, all right, cool. Now pull her up in your mind's eye. How do you feel? She's like, I don't feel anything. Great, because you don't really know her. And that
Right.
seems like an appropriate response for somebody that you don't really, know. So fast forward, she does the golf event. They actually wind up liking each other and have good, and they're like friendly and but it's just the surety that
Yeah.
I have, that you have, that we all have for how we feel about people and situations, that specifically that are negative or degrading, are like most of that is informed by just old memories and old filter that is not applicable to here and now.
Right.
Very seldom has anything to do with this life. It's just old information that's kind of stored in the soul. So, but when I did that, that was the first time she was like, oh, okay, there's something, I was whole enough in myself to be able to offer the support when she really needed it. She said it, and it was good to go. So maybe help your wife through a cold. Have her lay down and do some Hertz work, or because they turn into powerful advocates, for you at a certain point in time, even
I
if it's not path. Because my wife is
well,
not interested in my stuff.
yeah, I agree with you, and I've done a little bit of that. I'm trying not to push too much. I will say when we did a meditation with her stepson after his surgery, I said, "Hey, do you want to lay down while I'm doing this?" I was still at that post. I just laid on the floor and just played some music, and I say some things, they don't hear what I'm saying, and I can tell you, I was laying on the floor. So if I'm like this way, if I'm laying on the floor, my stepson's over here and she's here, and I haven't felt it before or afterwards. But my entire right side of my body, when I got through a couple things, especially talking about DNA and cells in my own kind of mantras and everything's right now, it's already here, you're already healed, you're already healthy, you've already forgiven, all those kind of things. My entire right side of my body lit up and it went from here down to my toes. And by the end of it, my entire body was alive. I can even feel it right now if you can see that. My
Yeah.
entire body was alive with whatever energy. And I'm like, I don't think that's me. Well, I know it's already not me. It's source. It's God.
Yeah.
But I really don't. I think it's my wife that is like generating that. I told her, I'm like, you know, you're really powerful, right? And she's like, I have been told that. I've even gone to mediums to, I haven't, I said, but it's baby steps, and it's not baby steps as in I'm right and I'm so lofty
Right.
and all this other kind of stuff like join me. No, it's not that. It's just that now I can say, and you know, it. She doesn't listen too much of this, but I'm sure I'll have to explain myself if she's hearing me talk about this, because this is the compliment. Now she's left, but she had to go do something. But the the time now that I have moved back into 3D world, but I'm still doing this,
Yeah.
we have conversations now that are almost 100% the level of where I was trying to go too fast before. We're
Mm.
already there. In my opinion, we are very aligned. And she helps me not float away into the ether too quickly till my time is done. She kind of keeps me a little bit here. And I had viewed that as, me being caged and not being allowed to, just do whatever. And I'm not so sure that's the truth. I'm actually very sure that portions of those are to help galvanize whether I really feel this or whether I did. Like I didn't go far into. I learned about it, but I didn't go like into plant medicine or something. Not disparaging that for
Sure.
those who do that, but she helped rudder me to be sure I was sure about that, and it just so happens that wasn't my path, at least right then. I don't know
Mhm.
what will occur in the future, but so I guess my point is the benefits of her being who she is, and me working through that together, and whether she ever wants to get a healing session for me again or not, doesn't necessarily matter. It'll happen in its own time, and it's been really beautiful. I think those just 4 months were so incredibly intense for her, for someone that she's only known for 4 years. It just like you mentioned, like we're the wine people, and you don't drink wine. Like, what do we do now? Like when you move your own goalposts so far away, it's not even on the same field, maybe let alone the same sport. It's
Or
hard on the
planet.
people that you love. Yeah, or the planet. Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
so much
it's
so. Sorry.
No,
One
no.
other thing. We went, I think it was September. I want to say it was September. Just before September, I for some reason felt called to start listening a little bit to near death experiences, just on some
Mm.
podcasts. And then somehow, I cannot recall how, she remembered a book that she had gotten for her father when he was going through cancer several years ago. He's good now. Um, and then she read it, and it reinvigorated her as to why she liked it. And then we went to the beach. And you know how if you go to the beach and it's like a little like bungalow thing, and like there's books and old books and whatever. And I was just flipping through the ones to find stuff. Well, at the very back one, it might not have been the last one, but it was pretty far back. There was a near death experience. And she read that cover to cover in like a day.
Yeah.
And then now she's read more of her books, and like that brought her around in her own way, because it wasn't my idea. You know that being a doting husband like I am,
Yeah.
it can't be your spouse's idea. It has to be from somewhere else. And so I'll just land it there to say all the conversations that we're having now are very much that same way. I'm just being a little less in her face about it, and she's meeting me in ways that she can. There's other ways that she can't. So it's rather beautiful. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is.
What were the books, the near death experience books?
So the series that she and I have gotten really into is Betty Eadie's
Okay.
series books. So she had her NDE in '73. I want to say it's called Embraced by the Light. The
Okay.
other one I cannot remember. The other one was like kind of it's a better entry point for those who aren't quite ready to feel maybe how you or I or others watching feel. It was from a neurosurgeon that had died and
Proof of
experienced
Heaven.
all this. What's that?
Proof of
Yes.
Heaven. Yeah.
Yes.
Evan
Okay.
Evan Alexander. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. So I think that was a really good, gateway. If I can paint it that way, it was a
Yeah.
good gateway for her, I think, to sort of lean into that, because it felt okay. Well, this is a guy that he's been a neurosurgeon, and he's trying to think of this through a scientific thing, and he's trying to disprove and prove his hypothesis and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
for those who don't know, so Eben Alexander, like you said, is a neurosurgeon and an atheist, like full on.
yeah,
And I can't remember what bacterial, some kind of bacterial meningitis, or he had something
yeah,
that was so bad
and
that
rare, totally
and
rare.
rare that all of the functioning parts of the brain that could produce an experience of like a near death experience, it was all dead. It was all shut
Right,
down, like
right,
no activity whatsoever. And yet he had this extraordinarily vibrant and this extraordinary experience of of his near death experience, when medical science tells you that it was actually impossible,
right.
right?
That
So
there's no way the brain could produce consciousness at this point. Like you are clinically dead. Yeah,
yep, that was why it's been so powerful for so many people, because atheist, neurosurgeon with a complete mastery of the human brain,
right.
and every box check that says that it is impossible for him to have experienced what he experienced, and yet it was. It's extraordinary for anybody who hasn't read that. It's
Yeah,
a phenomenal book, and it's a great entry point for so many people that are bound. And I say bound not um, in a hoity-toity way, but like bound by logic and reason,
right.
because logic and reason ultimately needs to be transcended to even be in even to be in a place to be able to experience love fully.
Yeah,
it nothing to do with logic and reason. You've got to like move up you move up the scale, and so
I
it's
agree.
that's usually where people like start searching spiritually. It's like they're scratching on the invisible ceiling that they've gotten in front of them, and then there's
That's right.
eventually a surrender, and they kind of move along. Have you ever read Many Lives, Many Masters? That's also a really great. It's not NDE, but it's a phenomenal. It was a clinical psychologist that did a lot of hypnotherapy.
I had not read that, but I have read Dolores Cannon's the Three Waves. Yeah, that was actually one of the first books that I read back in the fall that kind of started me sort of on this. And there's one other book I wanted to mention. There's many that I've read now, but one book you'd mentioned about David Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called and super scientific, kind of like one of those where you and I can hear the first half example and like we're good. Like
Yeah.
we're good. We got the gist. He takes it to like 9 more examples, and I'm like, come on, can we get up? It's a great book, but just real thick. It's called The Source Field Investigations by David Wilcox.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that was back in the day. Like, it was so long ago. It was back in the day where I would go on X, and each time you talked about taking notes, like I would read a book and I might get 2 sentences further, 10 pages further, and I'd find something I wanted to post about. I would post and I would thread it all into like long drawn out, like giant, things. Like, that was just sort of the area that it was in. But he was looking at it from a scientific standpoint, like extracting a piece of my, cells, which have DNA, and then me going on a plane ride. I put it in Phoenix. It was some guy that he did this with. He had this cell which was completely out of the body, sitting there in Phoenix as this guy went through all of the ups and downs of like the plane and everything else, landing somewhere else, and he could measure that reaction in that vial that had nothing to do with that person anymore, which is just super fascinating to me. And for those who need to get down with a little bit of science, like, there's some things that stand up on that. That's one of the books I think backward. Super thorough, a lot to get through. It's going to take a minute, but
Non-locality is an interesting phenomenon.
yeah, I mean, even like what you were describing, like sounds like the semblance of remote viewing and things like that. Like, that's pretty interesting. Even now, I mean, I don't talk about this much, but you started off when to ask me questions. Like, the remote viewing idea is interesting to me. I don't ask for the visions that I have. I go to bed every night meditating or in prayer. Use whatever label you like, and I
Yeah.
and I wake up with gratitude and prayer. 2 nights ago, I, you know, I see a lot in purple and then a lot in amber colors and things like that. Don't know why. It just is what it is. I could give theories, but 2 nights ago, I had a countdown in my head, like a digital countdown. I don't know what the
Hmm.
digital countdown was to, but I've seen some words, not often, but I saw numbers. It said 7, 6, and then 5. And about 5 seconds later, something in my field of vision, which eyes closed or open, it was there, was like off twirling it was like a jagged DNA type thing. And I'm like, this is wild. But thankfully, I can share this with my wife now. And because she's a little more, maybe I should say immune, tolerant, she's like, that's fascinating. Anyway, it's beautiful and fortunate for the people in your lives. And maybe this is a message I would share, like I need to share with myself, that people that you think might be holding you back, they may be. That may be possible, or they may be helping you rudder in your own river headed to the ocean in ways that you need to already work through. I mean, I am eternally faithful that everyone placed in your life is there as a gift, and that gift is a lesson. It might be a really hard one and one you don't want to, but that might be the place you need to look.
That's the kind of reminds me of the Ram Dass, right? We're all just walking each other home, you know?
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
you mentioned earlier, and I think it's something that's super valuable. So your journey did not involve psychedelics,
No.
or plant medicine, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because like you, I think they're phenomenal tools for certain people. I think they can do incredible things. Mine didn't either. Like none of the extraordinary stuff that I
Right.
do on the healing side. None of the access to that information. None of it was strictly. I found an arcane modality that spoke to me, that worked. I forgave information, and then the abilities and the things that I have that came from that was
Yeah.
simply a matter of a byproduct of forgiveness. And yeah, and I think that like, I remember when I was thinking about like how to be in the world spiritually, like how I was gonna like what a point of view, a perspective. And one thing that I was pretty clear on was I wanted to be a stand for people to know the deep, profound experience of oneness, the deep, profound insights, and an extraordinary peace that's possible, that has nothing to do with all the psychedelic realm. Because
Right.
while there's nothing wrong with it, there's stigma. there's stigma around a lot.
There
Like
is.
I know plenty of people who went and did a grip of ayahuasca, came back and nuked their entire life, which is totally fine. It's their path, and it's all happening. And it creates pain and suffering, that it's
Right.
it's not a necessary part of the hero's journey to spirituality. It's
I
not.
agree.
Yeah. And I think that I really appreciate you kind of mentioning that, because um I think that it's important. The classes that I did, that I used to do, I haven't done one in a few months now. I always do feedback forms or whatever. And I had a gal who was a psychologist, maybe a psychiatrist, and did a lot of like ketamine therapy. And it was interesting. The feedback I got from her on her worksheet was she's like, like all of the stuff that she does minus the hallucinogens. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like the ability for someone to have this experience, to understand parts about themselves and like let go of stuff, but just no hallucinogenic necessary. And I think it's so valuable because it is different
Yeah, I agree.
than.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. As far as I probably went, other than like the shamanic soul retrieval and other things, like, but all the visions are just innately whatever's happening.
Yeah,
And it's not to just. I'm very quick to want to not be divisive about this, because many people who may watch this will say, well, plant medicine is the way that it opened, and that's great.
it's
I-
great.
am
Do it.
I'm sharing. Right, I'm sharing my story of alcohol needed to leave. I actually stopped even drinking coffee. I was waiting to wake up until about 10 o'clock to then have it, because I read, some things, and even Huberman and a couple other people, kind of talk about that. And I was like, I'll do that. I'll try that. And by the time 10 o'clock rolled around, I was like, this isn't waking me up anymore. I'm already awake. So what's the point? So that just kind of drifted out. And so while I wanted to be open to consider plant medicine, and maybe that would be something, I'm super proud of myself for not wanting to shortchange what I already felt innately, because I was about to enter the working world again. Because that would have probably been the time that I would have done it. Will that change in the future? It might.
Yeah.
Or I'm good with not having every answer, because on the other side of the veil I will. And am I in a rush? I don't know that I am. It's not to disparage it. It's just I can appreciate what you're saying, because a lot of times you feel like it has to be one road versus another. I think it's wherever people need to be.
The most profound release that I've had, and probably the most impactful one, I alluded to it earlier. I got myself unstuck in June, July of 23, and it was coming back from sabbatical, and it was this block that I had around spirituality
Mm-hmm.
at all costs, and to fight that fight. And then I was refusing to do the basic business building stuff in the mortgage, and it was just like that. I could not reconcile it. And the most profound release that I had, that was extraordinary, it came with a group of friends of mine. That it was basically an intervention. It was like, we got to get Tom unstuck. Like, he's malfunctioning.
Yeah,
And it was
you
probably
were glitching a little bit.
it was a rough one. And probably a gram of psilocybin, twice over a 4 hour kind of like meditative release work. Like, it was the single most important thing I've ever done, and it was what allowed me to be able to go, and to be able to kind of be here now, how I am able to be firmly in both spots, where I was able to access in the emotional body. Right, you got your physical, your spiritual,
Right.
mental, emotional body. um, I could not access this old information anywhere else, other than through a plant medicine. And so it was the move, it was the appropriate thing, and we got it, and it was perfect. But I think that it, like, so I am, an extraordinary proponent of people who are able to kind of use it as a tool in a way.
Yeah.
But there's so many people, I think, Adam, that um, have stakes in their life, right? The wife, the kids, the husband, that I'm not willing to burn my entire life,
Right.
life down. And I think that you and I both represent, no, you can go all in. not to, pardon the pun, but
That's
you
why that's
can.
why the name. I mean, that's my last name. I thought, well, how could I be more cheeky than this?
It's perfect. But you can go all in, and it doesn't have to look like the people that you've seen that have burned it down, because
Correct.
there's a path where it can just be you, and you can walk as slow as you want to walk on that path.
That's
The
right.
path is the path. It's going to be there. The path doesn't end. You know what I mean? It's just,
That's
there's
right.
just more path. And I think that I think that the space that we occupy and how we arrived, can be a beacon and an example for people in that respect.
I agree. Yeah. Um, it's maybe cliche for some, but I'm a pretty strong proponent of it. I mean, you mentioned like we're all just walking each other home. I mean, we each are a representation of the universe experiencing itself, and it's the simple answer of love, and however love shows up, and how much you'd like to detonate your life or allow it to occur while you're doing that. Every timing is always perfect for things,
Yeah.
and I know that's probably difficult for many to accept if they feel like they're in a rush, and I'm certainly one of those. But I'm not in a rush. And I mean, even the moment of you and I speaking here, like I hadn't really talked about too much about this, more recently, and this was really a gift for you to give to me. I appreciate you very, very much.
No, well, thank you for having me on, and I'm more than happy if you ever want to nerd out on release work, karma, anything. Let me know, and I'm always happy to jump on and have a conversation. Thank you.
I would love to, and I know Saturdays are best, so we'll set something up here really soon again. Tom, take us home. Anything that you want to share here with the audience? Parting words for you. I know that's you know very heavy, but
Yeah, no, I
we've
think
had a
that
lot of fun, so I appreciate that. This has been a lot of laughs.
yeah, I think that the number one thing is that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah,
Like, it's all happening absolutely perfectly, exquisitely perfectly, in ways that you can't understand. Every little bit of pain that's experienced, every little bit of joy, like, it's all happening. You said, that we are the universe experiencing itself, and that is 1,000% kinesiologically, a strengthening term, and it's honestly, you mentioned that you're not in a rush. I was in a rush, and it's okay to be in a rush, right? Like
yeah,
my healer boy thing. This is the thing that I'm supposed to do in my burnout, and someone listening, or reading something about this, is in a position where they're in a rush also, and even the rush is okay. And I will tell you that the full circle on it, where it comes back around to, is this idea that me doing mortgage and you doing whatever version of sales that you're doing is the exact same expression of God, of creation creating, than you doing a reading or doing some kind of healing, or me
right.
doing a reading or some kind of healing. It is, those are, as bizarre as it seems, those are actually the same aspect of creation, creating itself and experiencing itself doing it. And so, be in a rush, don't be in a rush, but the full circle is, at the end of it, it's all unfolding perfectly.
Yes, well said. You're right. I appreciate you very much, brother. Thank you. Hang on for a couple moments while this thing finishes its download. Tom, thank you
Yeah,
very,
for
very
sure.
much. I appreciate you. Thanks, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next time.